Wah, wah.
It was a beatdown last night.
Wah, wah. I don't know when it was. I don't know what decade it was that it seemed like every single year the Super Bowl was a big old nothing burger. Like one team was getting blown out. And then I feel like in recent years it's been pretty close. Last year, last night, I just lost interest. I mean, I turned that thing off in the middle of the fourth.
I didn't even make it to the fourth. I made it halfway through the third, and I had enough.
Yeah, I bet. I was thinking about you most of the time. Yeah.
I was going through it.
Why was that a big one for you there, Mo?
I didn't even want to bet on the Super Bowl. I feel like it was forced on me, but there I was. I'll reset it if you missed it. I was in a playoff draw for the NFL, and it was like a March Madness style tournament, and I happened to pick all of the right teams. The only one I didn't get right was the one in the end, which was the Kansas City Chiefs. So the guy that I was playing against in the finals chose the Eagles. I chose the Chiefs, and whoever won was going to get a $5,000 pot off of a $50 buy-in. And he came to me and offered me a split half a week before the Super Bowl. And I could have sent him $2,500. He gave me $2,500. We call it a day. Boy, did that seem like the right thing to do looking back now.
Well, I tried telling you.
Yeah.
Anybody I told leading up to the game about your bet is like, I would take that $2,500. I know.
And I was right there, man. It seemed like the right thing to do. I felt like it was the right thing to do, but I got that text from my grandmother, and everybody was in my DM saying, I know you blame your grandmother. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't blame my grandmother. It was my decision to make. She did inspire me. She did inspire me to go big or go home. Yep. I went big. Now I'm going home. With nothing. A big old nothing. That was... I just honestly, first of all, let me say this. My friends, my family, the Bert Show listening community, like, they never come out to support me the way they do when I'm down bad. When I am in pain, man, my phone was blowing up this morning like I played in the Super Bowl.
At what point during the game did you go, oh, this is it. This is done?
I think it was Pat Mahomes' first interception. I had it just looked like momentum is such a big deal in the NFL game, and it just felt like Philly had the momentum from the very beginning, and I saw nothing in Kansas City that said they could turn it around.
Yeah. Philly played good. Kansas City did not.
No,
they did not.
When it was 17-0, I'm like, I feel pretty good about this. Although then you got the Patrick Mahomes factor, and I don't know who was playing at quarterback last night for Kansas City, but it was not the Patrick Mahomes that I've been watching the last couple of years.
I don't know what that was about, man. I felt like he could turn it around in the second half, and then when they came out and was still flat, I was like, this is a wrap. If the NFL is cheating, then I don't know where they were last night, but we could have used it to make it a decent game at least.
Where are the conspiracy theorists today? They're like, they had to have a blowout to reset this, to throw us off the scent.
So I asked my son was sitting in my lap when the Super Bowl started last night. And I'm like, all right, Jimmy, who you got? Kansas City Chiefs or Philadelphia Eagles? He's like, I don't know. I go, do you think the guys in red are going to win? Or you think the guys in green are going to win? He goes, guys in green.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
So you would have told me that a week sooner.
I know. And funnily enough, when we were watching the Super Bowl, because I did watch it in its entirety last night, and you can call me crazy. I told my husband this, so I have evidence. The way John Hamm introduced the Kansas City Chiefs and the way Bradley Cooper introduced the Eagles, I was like, I think the Eagles are going to
win. Just based on that?
Merely based on the introductions, because John Hamm's voice cracked a couple of times, and then Bradley Cooper's holding a little kid, and if you know the history of like the Philadelphia Eagles kid, it's really, really sweet.
What is it?
So he was in a store, and an influencer, I don't know who the dude is, approaches him, and he's like $1,000 or like a surprise eagle or something like that, and the kid's decked in Eagles gear, and he takes the eagle or whatever, and he starts talking to him, and the kid had been, there's a children's hospital nearby, and the kid had been to the children's hospital, like he said 17 times. Okay. And the guy's like, do you mind me asking? And he has juvenile arthritis, and is in a lot. He's like, are you in pain right now? And he's like, yeah, I'm at back or whatever. So he gives him 2 tickets to an Eagles game during the regular season, right? But then fast forward, the team hears about it or whatever, and they had him there on the floor of the Super Bowl, man. Cool. Bradley Cooper holding him. It was so cute.
That is super cool.
He did have a lot more swag when he brought the Eagles out.
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
It was way better.
Yeah. I gotta say, the Eagles are a passionate bunch, because I didn't think there were this many Eagles fans down where we live, because I went to Live at the Battery, which is like this big sports bar. I was like, this will be a fun place to watch the Super Bowl. We walk in, it might as well have just been a fiddle Philadelphia Eagles bar.
Yeah.
Everybody was decked out in green. Everyone had their beads on. When they were cheering, I was like, the Eagles must have done something good. Whereas last year I went to the same place, everyone was cheering for the Chiefs. So I don't know if we just have like a bunch of bandwagoner fans, but people were pulling out for Philly yesterday.
Yeah, Philly fans are some of the most passionate in the country for any one of their teams right there. And the fact, I think also that Kansas City has been there so many times, because maybe it was just the way I was watching the game. It felt like there were more Eagles fans inside the stadium also. And I think when you win so many Super Bowls, you win 2 in a row as a fan, you get kind of complacent. It's happened here in Atlanta. The Braves were winning. And then people weren't even showing up to the playoffs because we're like, I've been here before. You know what? Get to Game 7 of the World Series, then we'll show up. But Philly fans wanted this so badly.
You know who was upset? Those Swifties. Because there was not a lot of Taylor Swift on that screen last night.
Girl, I was bummed. Everyone was like, what team are you rooting for? What team are you rooting for? I'm like, I'm Team Love. I'm like, I don't care if they win or lose. I just want a sweet little moment on the field with them. And we didn't even get that. Nothing.
Oh, you were up late last night watching that blowout of a Super Bowl, right? So this morning, a little tough to get out of bed. And maybe you need just one grain of motivation to go, okay. All right, I can take that first step out of bed. We call that Monday mantra. And the one I brought in today is kind of a lesson that I've heard over and over and over again. Maybe it's because my age. The last couple of months. And it's from Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, who, again, stresses that things come, things go. Don't get so stressed out because this too is going to pass.
The world is only going to end once. And if you're still awake the next morning, there's something good going to happen. Every single day in my life, I've got over 50 companies that I'm an investor in. I get a phone call in the morning or sometime where it's total catastrophe. They're being sued or something catastrophic has happened. And then an hour later, I get a call from somebody else saying, oh, we just got a takeout offer at 14 times EBITDA. You have to sign off on this. Do you want to sell? And I'm thinking to myself, the only thing you have to do between utter depression and euphoria is simply wait, because something else is going to happen. And so I live my life with a new attitude now. I just simply cruise through the day knowing bad stuff's going to happen and great stuff's going to happen, and it happens every single day. And you kind of want to understand that that's the ebb and flow of how it all works. And it takes years to figure that out. I wish I understood that peace and harmony when I was 25. You get better with time because you don't let anything slow you down. In the end, you're dead. That's the only thing that's going to slow me down. And wherever I'm going, I'm going to start a business.
That's true for him. Yeah, it's really about survive and advance some days, man. It's just that sometimes the stress is so heavy and you're in it that you feel like this is going to be permanent. And nothing is permanent, right? The good stuff goes away. The bad stuff goes away. All you got to do is survive and advance.
It's so true what he said about just learning how to wait. Sometimes that period of waiting can be the hardest thing in the world, of just waiting it out. But sometimes that's all you can do is be still.
All right, Kristen, what do you got? Boundaries today.
Yeah, so I found this little nugget of audio from Leo Skeppy, and he is a famous TikToker, and somebody had stitched it, and I'm like, this person talking over it's really annoying. I need to find the OG audio. And so I did digging, and so this is an oldie but a goodie, but it's talking about knowing your worth and setting your boundaries.
When you go to the club and they tell you it's $10 to get in, what do? You pay the $10 or you don't get in, okay? The club doesn't give a who you are. The cover is what it is, and if you don't pay it, you're not coming in. You're allowed to be the exact same way about what it takes to access you. If you tell someone basic communication and consideration skills are my cover charge, they can pay it or they can't come in. They don't get access to you. You're the bouncer at the door. You choose what you allow in your life and what you don't. So set your cover charge. And it doesn't matter who's coming up to try and get in. You pay it or you off. Or being nice when it comes to your boundaries.
I love that.
Right?
Just the right amount of attitude, too, man. It makes sense.
So, I mean, we've heard this message before, but I don't feel like it was conveyed in this manner.
It was
where
not,
it really resonated. And I'm like, yes, set your cover charge. And if they ain't got it, they can kick rocks.
Right.
It's really, honestly, that simple.
You know somebody in your life gonna be like, but I'm on the list.
You got the list in front of you. No, you're not. No, you're not. I don't see it.
Everybody needs to turn into a bouncer today.
All right, our producer, Rebecca, here is going through a bag of emotions now.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've been having a really hard time. I knew this break was going to be difficult for me to talk about, so I sent Katie some cartoon sounds just to like intersperse, just to like sort of make me feel better as I talk about it.
Have you thought about like not having a bad time?
Yeah, mental illness cured.
You're done.
So, I've talked about having OCD before a little bit. I was like formally diagnosed when I was 19 years old. I had it for years before that as a teenager.
Give us examples of how that shows up on a day-to-day. OCD.
So OCD, it's really simple, but a lot of people think they understand it, but they don't. They're totally wrong. OCD is a disorder where a person has a brain chemistry problem where they are kind of inundated by intrusive thoughts. And those intrusive thoughts are so distressing that the person turns to compulsions in order to alleviate those distressing thoughts. And the more you do those compulsions, the more it becomes this sort of like feedback loop where you do it again and again and again.
Give me an example, like a real life example.
So one of like the most like mainstream stereotypical ideas of OCD is someone who has a germ contamination fear. They are afraid that like they have accidentally gotten a ton of germs on their hands, so they need to wash their hands. So a person with OCD who is afraid of germs will wash their hands multiple times a day. They'll wash their hands in a specific way. They'll do it for this long. Like they will have to do that every time that they feel like they have contaminated their hands in some way.
And is that a real life example for you?
No, that's not for me. That's just like one of sort of like the most digestible, I think, ways to think about OCD.
It's real life for me.
Yeah.
That was me. I had contamination OCD. I wouldn't let mail pass a certain spot in my house. If the kid's shirt or teddy bear hit the floor, I'd have to wash it immediately. And only I could wash it because there was a specific way that it had to be washed in order to hit my threshold of cleanliness. And then I got on medication.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was on medication. I was on medication for almost 10 years, from like 19 to 28. I was on a very low dose of Prozac, and it was really only supposed to be a temporary boost for me when I was first given it by my doctor.
What was the tipping point for you that you're like, I can't live like this anymore?
I was in college and I had just gotten a new obsession, and I couldn't leave my dorm room anymore. I couldn't leave. I was stuck. I couldn't tell my friends about it. I didn't know what was happening really at the time.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to take you
It's
back
okay.
there.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's always hard to talk about, but I am past it. And it was hard because OCD is so simple. All you have to do is stop doing the compulsions.
Yeah.
It's so easy. But when you know what you have to do and you still can't do it, that means that you need help and you need a boost. And I knew I needed that boost. And so that's why I started taking it. And for 10 years, I was just going on my merry way. And honestly, it really helps me a lot. So this past almost 2 years ago, May 2023, I came to a point where I realized, hey, I'm in a really good headspace. I feel like I've learned all the tools I need to be able to cope and deal with my mental health on my own. I'm going to go off and I'm going to see how I live my life without medication.
Not like go off on somebody, but just go off on the meds.
I was raw dogging life. And I was so proud of myself because I was able to do it and it felt so fulfilling, and I had a good grasp on my mental health. And I almost lasted 2 years. But recently, my OCD has come back at such a force that it feels as bad as it was before I ever got my formal diagnosis. It feels as bad as it was when I didn't even know that I had OCD. Katie, hit me.
Is that what your brain sounds like inside?
Literally what my brain sounds like. So I've talked about what OCD is for other people. For me personally, I have something colloquially called health OCD. all OCD is the same, but I think in layman's terms, you would call it health OCD. And with my medical record, if you know it, you probably have a good idea of what that means. So I have fun at work. I'm engaged. I'm having a good time. And then I go home and I clock into the OCD factory. That's what it feels like every day for me. My OCD has taken over my life at this point. I have compulsions that take hours of my day, every day. And I've been fighting it, and I'm trying to work so hard to go just one day without doing a compulsion. Because I have terrible reassurance seeking. And if you don't know what that is, it's a very common compulsion where people ask their family and friends kind of just the same questions over and over and over and over again. And I am doing that to my family and friends to where I am alienating my relationships. And it's always the same thing. You know, I'm asking my friends like medical questions that they don't know, you know, is this normal? Has this ever happened to you? Do you think this is okay? And it always just boils down to me asking, do you think I'm going to be okay? That's what I'm asking.
It's a prison.
It is.
And for those of you who don't know, it really is a prison inside and you can't escape because it's your own mind.
Yeah.
And you can't shut it off. And you might have a voice inside being like, this isn't real. Turn it off. And you can't. And you can never escape it.
What's the hesitation on going back on the meds?
You know, I never ever used to feel like ashamed about taking medication. I always felt like, you know, if you have diabetes, you take insulin. If you have a broken leg, you go and get it reset. I think the problem for me right now is I'm so frustrated and I'm so upset with myself because the last 2 years, what I went through when I battled cancer, I have been given a second chance at life, and I want so badly to wake up every day and feel so positive and so grateful for my life, because I think that should be the natural progression after everything I went through. And instead, I'm wasting it. I feel like I'm wasting it. And I'm so upset that I have to turn back to something that I felt like I could have moved past, and that I feel like I should be able to do this on my own. And I know I can't.
So you initially came on and you said that OCD, your explanation of it was a chemical imbalance, right?
Yes.
So if it's a chemical imbalance, and for 2 years you've been fairly successful at pushing it aside, is it a chemical imbalance, or is there something that is sparking this OCD now? And if it is a chemical imbalance, then it seems to me that, at least in my mind, I would get back on it knowing that I can't do anything about that.
It is a chemical imbalance, and but the thing is, it's your behavior will lead it to progress or get better. So for me personally, if I was to take medication, I think temporarily, I would be able to then move forward with the cognitive behaviors that I need to do in order to stamp out the OCD.
So if you know that, then when are you starting again?
Thursday.
Okay. All right. Good.
Find you some peace, girl.
Right.
Find you some peace.
I'm trying.
When I talk to people about getting on meds for the very first time, or when they take off and then they get back on it, generally when they have some space between those periods, they say the only thing I regret is I didn't take it sooner.
Yeah.
Like I fought myself and I fought my ego, and the only thing I regret is I didn't take it sooner.
Yeah. I'm excited to be medicated again.
You're going to notice something around the office or where you go to work today. People are missing. They got the Super Bowl flu. Okay. Hey, where's Jenny today? Jenny's out. She's not feeling so great. She must have gave it to Billy because he's not here also. 22.6 million American workers planned to miss work today. 22.6 million.
Oof, they're all in Philadelphia.
Yeah, right. Another 16 million. Oh, that's up 16 million from last year. And on top of that, 12 and a half or almost 13 million employees have already planned to go and work late today.
I'm curious. They say 22.6 million American workers planned to miss work today. Did they talk to all 22.6 million to decipher that they're going to plan to miss work today?
I wasn't in on the survey, but that's a lot of people. I know I saw it yesterday because I went to get a manicure and pedicure yesterday with my girlfriend. And the dude was complaining because so many people had called in, and he's like, it's because of the Super Bowl later on today. And that was like 2:00. And he's like, I'm so sorry you guys are stuck in here. I'm like, well, you got 4 hours to kick off, so my feet aren't that jacked up. So we should make it.
I had a birthday party to attend yesterday, which is a bold move to do a kid's birthday party on Super Bowl Sunday.
Better get it done early, man.
It was done at 1. We were out at 2:30, man.
Okay.
That puppy was 90 minutes and we were bouncing. So kudos to them and happy birthday, Hendrix.
So on Saturday, I spent a ridiculous amount of time on social media because I was laid up all day on Saturday for something I'll get into later. But so all day, I'm pretty much just scrolling on TikTok. And all of a sudden, there was this surge of support for people saying that, look, if you block Instagram and Meta and Facebook on TikTok, that your algorithm is going to change. Did you guys see this at all this weekend?
No.
So I just happened, I guess, to be stuck in this algorithm and clicked on it a couple of times. So I saw it come up over and over and over again. And I told you guys, my TikTok compared to your TikTok and Instagram is so boring. You guys come in here with such great stories and great videos, and I'm into the biohacking algorithm, and some of mine is political, so it's just so boring that I've kind of lost interest in it. So I'm like, you know what? So many people are saying this, and you don't know what is real and what's not, so I'm at least going to try it. Change my algorithm. So I do. I block Instagram, I block Meta, and I block Facebook. And I think there was a political reason why maybe it started, maybe so Meta would lose some money or something like that. And so I wasn't even sure if it was real. So I did it, and it worked.
Wait, what?
It really did. It worked. Yeah. I started getting a whole bunch less of this similar type videos I was getting before. As soon as I blocked all 3 of those, I started getting all into a new algorithm.
Yeah, TikTok will it's not like some big conspiracy theory fix, because I've seen versions too where you have to also block certain people. So the list changes, but basically once it sees that you block it, it'll align you. It'll say, okay, you don't want any content from these people or content that people who want to follow those people watch. So it's going to mess with your content. So the algorithm will adjust slightly to do that.
It did. Quite a bit.
So what are you getting now?
So now, this is really interesting. This is where I was going with this. It's the very first time that I've ever really been interested in TikTok, because one of the first couple that came up was called a hashtag World Talk. Have you guys been on this at all? So if you hashtag, I would totally endorse checking this out now, because what happened when TikTok went down for those 12 hours and everybody was panicked and they started looking for other apps to go to so they could communicate, all of a sudden the world had opened up to Americans that were talking to those in China, and then the world started to talk because their algorithm was pretty much staying away from American feeds, and American feeds were staying away from global feeds. And hashtag World Talk is everybody talking about their own communities now and talking about their own politics and comparing their countries. And it is so interesting to watch over and over and over again.
Yeah, so it's interesting as somebody who was born in the UK and would go back to visit a lot. News overseas is about the rest of the world. There's local news, but it's international. In America, it's very insular. We really only hear about major events overseas, but otherwise it's all local. So it's really cool to have World Talk where people are talking to each other and comparing those notes. And by the way, I tried Instagram Reels this weekend because I accidentally deleted TikTok off my phone. Woof. Oh my God.
Terrible.
Reels is terrible. I feel like I just mainline pixie sticks watching it. Compared to TikTok, it's literally like going from an all veggie diet, which is saying something about TikTok, to just trash.
Yeah, what I love about it is, and and I've said this when I come back from traveling, because that's the number one thing that I love to do, is that we're pretty much raised in this country as America, America, America. We do the best. We do the best. We do the best. And then when you start scrolling just a little bit about World Talk, you're going to start to realize, if you don't do any traveling, okay, maybe this country has it a little bit better than we do. Maybe they have a theory that we can apply here in America. And to watch everybody talk back and forth about the positives and the negatives that are going on in their own country, you really start to realize, it might be governments against governments, but the people are pretty much the same all around the world. And I've really enjoyed this weekend. So if you get a chance, just click on a couple of them and you'll start to get a feed that touches the rest of the world more than it does the United States. And just hashtag World Talk on TikTok.
What I love about history is that it really is just a bunch of gossip. It's a bunch of hot information that you didn't even know about. And so because it's February and we're honoring Black History Month, I wanted to give y'all a little hot tea about Harriet Tubman. So, did you know that Harriet Tubman's own husband didn't want her to escape slavery? It's crazy. Ladies, you got to learn from our girl that sometimes you got to lose the dead weight to make American history.
Okay.
So, this is the story of how Harriet Tubman's first husband almost stopped her from changing the world. It's pretty crazy. So, her husband was a free Black man. And when she was like, "Hey, babe, I'd really like to be free," he was like, well, that puts my freedom at risk, so let's not do that. And Harriet Tubman was not about to let this scrub hold her back. So at 27 years old, she escapes slavery on her own. I'm 27 years old, and the only thing I'm capable of escaping is a bad hinge date. So she escapes and could have lived a totally free life in Canada. But she's like, no, first of all, it's cold as hell here. Second of all, I want to go back and get my mans. So she comes back and finds out that he's already moved on to another chick.
This dude.
He remarries. Crazy. So nothing is more motivating than a bad breakup. So she's like, if I can't get my man back, I'm going to make history.
A woman scorned is going to get some stuff done, man.
So she's already been conducting at this point on the Underground Railroad, but she goes to a Union battle camp in South Carolina. Reminder, Union armies are the good guys. And at first she's just working as a nurse, and she's looking at all these white army dudes laying around playing Fortnite, and she becomes the first Karen in history and is like, let me speak to the manager. So she teams up with this guy named Colonel James Montgomery, and James is like, listen, I'd totally be down to get some insider info, but like, I'm white and we need info from the people that are enslaved. So he makes her a spy in the army, and she disguises herself as a washerwoman to spy on the Confederates. So while Harriet is spying on the Confederate Army, scrubbing the skid marks off the losing team's underwear, the soldiers would just be around being like, yeah, it's crazy that we have this big torpedo next to that one oak tree marked with a big X on it. And the other soldiers would be like, shouldn't you keep your voice down? And the other guys would be like, do you think anyone around here is going to use this information against us? And it turns out, yes, the hell they were. So she finds out where all of these torpedoes and stuff are located. And she's like, let's burn these plantations to the ground. We've got to get these people free. So think of this. It's a 5-foot tall Black woman, silk bonnet on, and freshly moisturized coconut oil. She goes down to the Union Army. She's leading the charge. She's looking at all these little cadets picking their noses and is like, don't F this up. It is time to get in formation.
Okay, ladies, now let's get in formation.
So she's able to guide the Union Army to the plantation safely, all because of this information she got while she was a spy. And then once they got there, she goes all Khaleesi in this moment, just like, Dracarys, and they're throwing torches and stuff, and they're burning the place to the ground, and people are running everywhere, and they're escaping. And the army is able to burn all of these plantations down, kill off supply lines, and free around 800 enslaved people who would then join the Union Army. So she increases military power by freeing enslaved people who would end up helping the Union cause, and it becomes the first military operation run by a woman, a Black woman. And low-key, helping abolish slavery is kind of the greatest comeback from your loser husband dumping you.
I'd say so.
I would say so. That's your hot piece of history gossip for today. Well played.
Very well done. She was kind of offended because she got offered a position at her husband's company, and he was like, I don't know that I want you to take that.
So she felt like the situation was causing some tension in their marriage because she was offered a really great job in the marketing department. Problem is, it's for her husband's company. Her husband was not happy about it, for one, because she applied without telling him. And for two, he just feels like it's too much all the time and he really enjoys his space. She feels like it's a small company, but they wouldn't be necessarily working side by side. There will be some interaction, but not that much. But he doesn't want to see her every day, every night. He doesn't want to carpool all of the time, and he wants her to take her talents elsewhere. And she feels like it's a fantastic opportunity and can't see why he doesn't understand that they should make it work. And she was wondering what she should do because the company needed her decision by the end of the day. What ended up happening?
After a lot of back and forth and some serious tension at home, I decided to turn down the job.
Ooh.
As much as I wanted the opportunity, I realized that taking it would have created a massive strain on my marriage. My husband made it very clear that he was not okay with us working at the same company, and I didn't want to start a new job with that kind of resentment hanging over us. That said, I thought declining the offer would smooth things over, but he's still upset. Not about the job itself, but the fact that I applied in the first place. I honestly thought it would be a fun surprise, like, hey, we can be work buddies.
Hey, we're going to be with each other all the time.
So much fun.
all the time. All the time. Isn't that great?
I never expected him to react the way he did. Now, instead of being happy that I turned it down, he's still mad that I even considered it.
That's crazy.
Was I really that wrong for thinking this could have worked? I get that he values his independence, but I didn't think applying without telling him would be such a betrayal. How do I fix this? Or does he need to chill out? Thanks again for your advice and maybe a little marriage counseling while we're at it.
Okay, this doesn't make a lot of sense to me unless there's something else going on here. I mean, why would he be that upset that she did it in the first place? It's rectified. It's done. Move on. So what am I missing here?
Yeah, but I mean, like if my husband applied for a job here at the radio station and didn't tell me, that would be odd. That would be weird. And I would feel some sort of way about it.
But then you would go, he'd go back and he'd go, okay, I heard you. I'm sorry I did that. And then what? It's over.
It makes me wonder what else you're doing behind my back that I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't here on Friday, but I definitely would have felt the way. I would have been more mad at the fact that she didn't tell me than I would have been at her wanting to work with me. But I think I would probably have gotten over it once I realized that she turned down the job. I don't think I would have held on to it.
Yeah, the fact that she didn't tell him is a little weird. Unless the company is just so big that she didn't really think anything about it. Like, we work in a pretty small office, so yeah, it would be really weird if Bart all of a sudden just applied for a job here and didn't say anything. But to his credit, I mean, maybe there's something deeper going on at home where she's been really suspicious about him, and this is maybe just another act of her trying to encroach on his freedom when he's like, I've done nothing wrong. Stay out of my business.
Angela's got an idea here. Hey, Angela, good morning. You're on the Bert Show.
Whoop, whoop. He's got a work side piece
You
alarm.
think?
Work side piece alarm.
I said that on Friday, that let's not like default to what would normally be Bert Show is like he's got some kind of side piece and he's hiding something. But maybe he is, Angela.
Yes. Alert, alarm. Work side piece.
I would think if he had a side piece, though, he would be relieved at the fact that she's done, and he would even want that to be a thing.
Right, like he's so relieved, then that becomes the guilty thing.
Yes.
Then it's squashed. You're not bringing it up ever again because you dodged a bullet.
Ooh, that was close.
You screwed it either way. All right, thousands had the same experience that Mo had over the weekend.
So I truly believe that there is a possibility or a way that thousands of people were in serious pain over the weekend, and you guys would have absolutely no idea not only what I'm talking about, but that this even happened.
Chiefs fans?
Nope. Wasn't the Super Bowl. Had nothing to do with that.
They were in a lot of pain.
They are still in a lot of pain. These people that I'm referring to are back now, but the Friday, the Saturday, and I think early into Sunday, there were a lot of people around the country that were all sharing pain online, and it was a moment for all of us. And this goes back. I have to start this story a little further back because sometime in life, I truly feel like the universe is just conspiring against little old me. It's going out of its way to just pick on me. And this started when I came in here and I told y'all the story about I truly felt like my girlfriend had broke my PlayStation 5 at that time on purpose. Because, I mean, she doesn't complain about me playing the game per se, but I know that there are times when she's like, really, this is what we're going to do. Now, I need to make this very clear. I never feel like I get hours at a time anymore to just sit down and play my PlayStation. It's something that I've wanted to do for a year now, and I have not had the chance to do it. So I had a 3-day weekend. You guys gave me the Friday off, and initially my plan was to travel with my dude for his birthday. But a lot of other things happened that went down to where I'm going to talk about some of that later. I could not do it. I had a mystery shot that led to me having a mystery illness. So I don't know what it was or what I took, but on Friday, I was down bad. Like
a mystery
really
shot
bad.
like a vaccine?
No, I should clarify that. No, like a shot of alcohol. Because I went out to have a couple drinks with my friend, and the lady knew that it was his birthday, so she offered us, she was like, I'll give you guys a free shot. And I just took it, which I got a whole nother relationship with alcohol now, which is another story, but I'm never doing that again. I just took it to celebrate his birthday. I figured it was a celebratory moment. What's the harm? And I had way more than a hangover. I thought it was a hangover until Saturday. I still had a stomach ache. My stomach was still bad. I couldn't hold anything down. I don't know if it was alcohol poisoning. I don't know what it was, but it had me literally in the bed the majority of my Friday.
On one shot?
On one shot.
Wow.
That's not alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, I only had 3 drinks. They were singles. The third one was a shot. And normally I would drink way more than that. That was all I had. But I was still to this moment, even I can feel like my stomach is not 100%. So the trip gets canceled. My dude no longer wants to do anything. I'm down bad. I'm sick, but I have an extra day off. So I finally have time to do the one thing. This is the one thing. My girl's not in town. I got the Friday to myself. I'm like, it's time. I just bought a brand new TV. The setup is ready to go. The surround sound is put together, and it hits me. I can play my PlayStation.
Yes.
There's no one here to judge me. No one will know if I lay in this bed sick and play PlayStation for hours at a time.
No pressure to hang out. Nothing.
This is it. This is my moment. I turn on the PlayStation. I hear the sound. It's the most precious sound to a PlayStation owner in the world. And then I see it. The network is down.
No.
Oh, no.
The entire PlayStation network was down. All Friday.
Oh, no.
All Friday night.
No.
All Saturday.
It was a PlayStation thing, not just your TV.
It was a PlayStation thing. So every PlayStation owner, on Twitter, on Instagram, that's all you saw was people talking about I worked all week. I went to school all week. I did whatever I did all week. All for there to be no PlayStation network the entire weekend. I am done with life right now.
Man, and there's something where you're so looking forward to something, and then you build it up, and then you sit down to do it, and then it's just like, wah, wah.
I couldn't believe it.
Did it get restored?
It didn't get restored until Sunday, which by that time it was time for the Super Bowl, so who really cared?
Jordan is right there with you. Hey, Jordan.
Yo, man, I work every day 12 hours, and I only had a couple days on Sunday to get on. I turned that thing on, it's still not working. I had a heart attack.
I feel your pain, my brother. It was so many of us.
Man, it was not fair. It was not fair.
Life is life.
That's a bummer, man. Yeah, a bunch of people are calling up saying the exact same thing right now.
I feel y'all pain. It was rough for all of us,
so
man.
You guys had to spend time with your friends and family and stuff like that. What is this country coming to?
Quality time.
I'm not entirely sure it was effective last week, but I do like the idea of this new segment here. Did Mo indeed get you more into the Super Bowl than you were planning on being? Because you didn't care about the Chiefs, you didn't care about the Eagles, you didn't care about the game.
I didn't. I honestly didn't care about the whole entirety of it. It wasn't until the very last day when Mo was trying to convince me to give a care. Care about the Super Bowl. It was the Kendrick Lamar performance that got me to tune in. So, and also, watching the pregame stuff. So I'm more of the pop culture aspect of the game rather than who's going to win. And the whole Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift isn't a huge draw for me either. Not so much who's in attendance, but the actual performances. And so, I watched it from beginning to end. I watched it from prior to from God Bless America all the way until they handed over the Lombardi trophy.
That's one of Amanda's friends who sang that song, God Bless America, last night.
Oh, yeah? Lauren Daigle?
Yeah. I guess they have known each other for a really long time. She was more excited about that than the game.
As she should be.
That's a
She
big
was
deal.
right.
Of all the great things you came in with last week, the story of Saquon Barkley, which I think is just absolutely great. The thing that had me most invested in the game is your $5,000 on the line.
It's what had me most invested too, Bert, and it did not go well.
Mo lost the opportunity at $5,000. He had a short $2,500 and turned it down for $5,000 and lost last night.
I will say your segment really did get me to care about the players for the Eagles, just like the story from Saquon Barkley and also talking about Jalen Hurts. But what the story that came out of the Super Bowl for me was actually the rookie Cooper DeJean. It was his birthday and it was like his first touchdown or something during the Super Bowl. I'm like, what a way to go.
Yeah.
Like, what a way to kick off your career.
22 years old, I believe he is. Had a birthday the day of the Super Bowl and had a pick 6 during the Super Bowl too. You can't have a better birthday than that.
Amazing, right?
I saw too, somebody had asked Bradley Cooper, who is a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan, and he introed the team out onto the field. Somebody had asked him, I don't remember when, all right, you can either win an Oscar for Best Director or Best Actor, or the Eagles win the Super Bowl. And without hesitation, he told them Eagles win the Super Bowl. And they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Look at
I feel
that.
that. All right, so if you take this out of football, and we're going to continue to do this segment about sports, but you don't really care about sports, I think Mo's on to something, because there was a really, really touching story over the weekend.
So the Super Bowl is now over, but sports has to continue. And if you don't indeed care about sports, I will try to help you realize that sports is really about a lot more than X and O's. And sometimes the stories outside of sports can really attach you to what things that can help you in life. And I think this is the perfect story to tell that story, which is Dick Vitale. If you don't know that name, he is a legendary sportscaster. I mean, if you grew up in my era, this dude is literally the sound of college basketball. When you think of March Madness, when you think of just sportscasting in general, you always think of the name Dicky V.
Baby! Yeah.
The doopsie-doo dunkaroos.
Dude's been around forever, and he is like the gold standard of announcing in college basketball, right?
He really is. And he was doing it for years. And unfortunately, back in the summer of 2021, he was diagnosed with melanoma. And following that, he was also diagnosed with lymphoma. And so he tried to fight through it, but he ended up having to step away at the fall of 2021 because they actually had to do surgery on his vocal cords. And obviously that is his moneymaker. And so he had to step away. And in summer of 2023, it got so bad that he didn't know if he was ever going to do it again. But after fighting 4 different cancers for 4 years, Dicky V finally got the opportunity to come back. They initially wanted him to come back to do a Duke game against Wake Forest, I believe it was. But he had an accident at home, which delayed his progress to come back even further. But he didn't stop fighting. And I feel like that's what Dicky V has always been about. When you listen to him, if you know him, he's very passionate about college basketball and about life. And his message has always been to whatever you're going through, to continue to fight. And that's what he did. He fought, and he finally got back, and the stage was set for Clemson versus Duke, where he was finally back to do his first game, and here's him calling it in the beginning.
45 years at the microphone, the last 2 years battling cancer, 4 different kinds of cancer. With everything you've gone through, it's incredible you're back, and we're just so happy, man.
Well, Dave, I just want to say thank you to all the people. I mean, the reception here has been really off the charts. I'm sorry for being so emotional, but I can't tell you how excited I am to be here. I was telling Corey before, this is like my Super Bowl. Be able to sit there courtside and do a game. It beats the hell out of the chemotherapy and the radiation. And I want to say to all cancer patients out there, please listen to me. Think positive and have faith and keep fighting and fighting and fighting. I know what you're going through, and it's not fun, but to be here, this is my Super Bowl, Dave. It is my championship, no matter what happens.
That was pretty awesome.
Man, it was beautiful to see him get that reception from the entire crowd and to the restaurants that they visited before his comeback. So good shout out to Dicky V for being strong, man, and handling his business.
It's a different attitude when you're a grandparent, man. Kids come over, the grandkids come over, you fill them up with sugar, man, because that's your love language. So you're giving it to your grandkids, and then you hand them on back to the parents, and it's like they just did an 8 ball of cocaine, and you can't calm them down, and it's not good for them. So Erin wanted our help last week with a texting tutor to hit her mother-in-law up and go, hey, I know you guys are showing her the love with all the sugar and all, but can you cool it this weekend when you have the kids? Because we're really trying to do a health pivot here. Man, We could have been in here for 4 hours texting with that mother-in-law. What a pain in the ass. And she just was digging in and digging in and digging in. So it didn't end well, our texting tutor. It just was kind of hanging there, actually.
Well, I mean, we involved doctors and we involved medical tests. And she essentially, the mother-in-law, called us out. Like, she was like, I think you're just saying all of this, so I don't give them sugar, and you're ruining our weekend. I had a big weekend planned. We were going to go to a candy store, and I was going to get them a bunch of Valentine's Day candy, since I'm not going to see them for Valentine's Day. And then everything ended with her saying, I'm going to contact your husband, and if I'm remembering the words correctly, so he can get his house in order.
I think that was it.
Was that it?
That was it.
That was it. I think that was it. And I think that's how the texting tutor ended.
And the mother-in-law is like, they can only have juvenile diabetes while they're juveniles. Okay, so I've got a goal. Hey, Aaron, how did it go this weekend?
Well, I imagine you can pretty much guess that the texting exchange with her about the sugar intake, it didn't go well.
Yeah.
Not at all. Yeah. She did follow through on her threat, like she mentioned. She ended up calling my husband in tears. And, of course, you know, he fell for that. That's his mom. And you know, of course, he completely took her side, which is not a shock at all. So, yeah, he didn't care for what was stated. He was extremely livid. The fact that I lied about a doctor visit. So it put me on the side of being the villain about lying about that. And it really, you know, hurt her feelings. And no one really saw my side, that all I wanted for my kids was to eat something that wasn't 90% corn syrup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we got a reoccurring theme on the show here. It's just that dude's not manning up, you know, like standing up.
Yeah.
This is what your wife wants. This is what we decided as a family. You did decide that as a family, right? About the sugar thing?
You know, it was more me than him.
Oh, he didn't know. That kind of changes things.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, so
no, I kind of went rogue on that.
Well, here's the problem, is that he didn't buy into all that. So when your mother-in-law gave pushback, rather than him saying, you know what, this is my wife, that's my number one woman right there, he doesn't feel like it's a big deal, so he wouldn't man up to his mom over it, right?
Right, exactly. Yep. So it wasn't looking pretty. I mean, we fought with each other and just escalated. You know, tensions were obviously high, and with all that going on, we ended up canceling the plans, so there wasn't a need to have them babysit after all, which, you know, to me worked out, because that I didn't want my kids on sugar and hyped up the whole week that I had to deal with them being sick. So unfortunately, he took it upon himself, since we weren't speaking, to go ahead and take his he decided to take the kids over to his parents' house anyways, and without notifying me.
Oh,
right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I get him wanting to defend Mom, but I still feel like he should have understood the bottom line of all of this enough to understand that he should have been on the right side of history here.
Like, is this not a common thought? Or maybe there's a debate here that, and maybe we've talked about this before, that your mom is always your number one versus your mom becomes number two once you get married.
Technically, like, your spouse is supposed to be number one, and then if you have kids, your kids are your number two, and then everybody else is number three.
Honestly, it seemed obvious to me. I mean, as a man who has always been like number one to his mom, and his mom has been number one to me, I'm not even married yet, but I'm with my girlfriend 70% of my life. I'm choosing her. It just makes my life easier. It seemed pretty easy.
The numbers are numbering.
Yeah, the math is mathing for me.
That's what I don't understand, is why wouldn't you want to make the person you spend literally every single day and night with the happiest? Like, I understand you're a mama's boy. She raised you. You want to show her respect. But at the end of the day, like, I want my life to be as easy as possible. And I'm doing that by placating the person I am sleeping next to every night.
If we did a poll, like, which is the more popular side, that mom is always number one no matter who you get married, or mom becomes number two once you got married, what would the split be, you think?
I thank my lucky stars that I do not have to deal with this with my husband and his mother. And I'm thinking about my friend group and looking at my friend group, and doesn't have an issue, has an issue. Doesn't have an issue, has an issue. I'm going to say 50-50.
50-50, you think?
I think before I started the show, I would have said 50-50. Now I think 70-30. Dudes go with their mom.
Yeah, everyone's calling up. It's 80-20 for me.
Yeah. So how are you guys planning on rectifying this?
Well, I honestly, I need help, because I feel, he took her side, and the kids were exactly like I told y'all. They ended up going to the candy store, like the mother-in-law mentioned through the text, and just came home with pillowcases of sugar and candy. I mean,
digging in
level, right?
Yeah.
It's just, obviously a huge jab. Everyone wanted to stick it to me, right? And so I honestly, I don't know what to do. I'm extremely frustrated. I'm outnumbered in this, and my husband's not even on my side. And like y'all said, we're supposed to be partners in this, and I feel like I'm going to give up, but my kids are going to be sick. So I don't know.
Well, there's so much more. I don't mean to make it worse, but there's more here. There's conversation about him not having your back. I mean, that's why allegedly you're supposed to get married and be in love. Is like, I got you no matter what, boo. Like, out there, I will always have you. Now, when we get into the house, we might argue about it a little bit, but in front of everybody else, I got you. So this is more than sugar and the kids also, and I think there's a conversation there.
Yeah, that's how I was always raised, that if we could fight in the house and not being on the same team in the house, but when we go out this house, it's always us against the world.
Vanessa here says we made one big-time flaw. Hey, Vanessa.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
So it actually made me cringe when you guys decided to go the route of bringing in doctors and a medical diagnosis, because, first of all, obviously that was never going to go over. The mom is going to call her son and verify, and he's going to be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So as soon as she did that, she's automatically the villain, because she's not only in the mother-in-law's eyes, like, trying to keep her kids away from the grandkids away from her, but she's making up this like elaborate medical diagnosis. Like, it was just the wrong way to go about it from the start. She just really needed to dig in and be honest that, like, hey, I don't mind a little bit of spoiling the kids, but we have to keep it to a minimum. And I think this would have gone a way different way.
Yeah, I coined a phrase a while ago that caught on, and that's called that ship has sailed. And people have picked up on that.
That's a good one.
I also coined one too. Told you so.
Hey, Jen, good morning. You think you can help out here?
I mean, I don't know, but I do know that I feel terrible for this mother from so many different perspectives. I'm married. I can't imagine if my spouse didn't have my back like that. I'm a young mom. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I'm a type 2 diabetic, and sugar is literally poisoning our kids. It's making us overweight. It's causing all kinds of health issues, and it just feels really icky that the family would not get behind this mother and support her. And it feels, I feel really bad for her, but diabetes is a real thing, and that is something for her to really worry about. And I have to talk to my little 4-year-old about it. She'll say, Mommy, does this juice have sugar in it? And I feel bad. Like, am I overdoing it with her? But, my spouse has my back, so I feel for her, and I hope that they can get on board behind her.
Thank you for calling. And if you have a problem with your 4-year-old and explaining that, we can text the 4-year-old for you. That's why we call it texting tutor. All right, Aaron, good luck with that. You really are in a tight spot there, and I'm sorry we couldn't help you out better.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.
I think we should coin a new term called divorce, and that's what should happen after this conversation.
I was kind of bored during the halftime, Kendrick Lamar's halftime performance, to be honest with you. I think in past years now, we've built up halftime performances as such this big spectacle, man.
Over the top, man.
Over the top. We got to have lights, and we got to have lasers and fire trucks and roller skates. swimming pools. It's a little bit of everything, man. I mean, they've become so big that I think last night when Kendrick Lamar was making more of a performance art statement than he was a spectacle, most of us that don't really understand music very well walked away from the thing going, that was kind of lame.
I think it's very easy to miss the message for sure, because what Kendrick did last night was a cinematic performance of actually delivering a message to everybody in the world on the world's largest platform. So if you did miss it, there's probably reasons as to why. I think some of it was actually on purpose. So all morning we've been kind of going over some of what these messages may have meant and the symbolism in between. Some of these that I've been reading all morning, because I know the thing about Kendrick is you have to watch something 2 or 3 times, and you got to give it a day or two. That's why I was not looking forward to coming in here and giving my opinion, because I'm like, I know I'm going to sound stupid on some of these things because the man just goes deep, and it's hard to decipher which message is he's trying to get across, because a lot of the times it could be 2 or 3 things out of one thing.
I think most people were just looking for the tea during halftime last night. Is he going to call out Drake? Is he going to use a couple of lines in that song that surely are going to continue and hurt him in a lawsuit? And that's really the only thing that people were talking about beforehand.
And I feel like that's some of the brilliance in it, is you would watch it and think that that's all he was doing was dissing Drake. But in fact, he was doing a lot more. And so I was reading this morning, and what a lot of people seem to agree on, some of these we have touched on and we caught. Some of these we didn't. Like some people believe that the entire message itself is a nod to when slaves used to use coded messages in order to communicate with each other and to keep their masters from knowing what exactly was going on.
Oh, wow.
So he did that on the largest platform possible for a hip hop artist, which within itself is monumental.
And what would make, when you're looking at that halftime show, what would make people say that's what he was trying to do?
Well, some of these messages that I'm going to go through now will be a perfect example of how you probably didn't even realize that that's what he was doing. So one of the obvious ones, you start with Samuel L. Jackson, who narrates it as his character in Django, where he talks about what Uncle Sam is demanding from black people within the country. At some point, he tells Kendrick to play the game that Americans want you to play and don't be ghetto. That's Kendrick saying we have to play a certain game in order to be looked at a certain way, because Samuel L. Jackson also says you better do what, quote unquote, they want, because that's black people who are always getting told we're too abrasive when we're simply just fighting for our rights. That's what the message was in that. The red, blue, and white dancers all symbolize different things throughout the entire performance. They represented their American flag to a lot, in which there was a scene when they split in half and Kendrick is in the middle. That's his way of saying that the country is really divided, and it's always been that way. Another one is when everybody bends over. All of the dancers bend over and give their backs, and then Kendrick stands up in the middle. That's his way of saying that America was built off of the backs of black people, and we don't get the credit we deserve on top of that. The colors also signify Bloods and Crips, whereas this is a message where you might watch it and think that the red, blue, and white was all about the country and the country only, but it wasn't. It was also about how he is trying to unify the Bloods and the Crips. That's what the white represented. It was a peace treaty between the red and the blue, which would be the Bloods and the Crips, which he's also trying to do because he's from the West Coast. He's from L.A. Other things, the Squid Games being on stage, Kristen mentioned that earlier. That is a thing. It symbolizes the rich people killing the poor. His chain, the lowercase a, everybody saw the A minor in that, but a lot of people are now also saying that represented America not being exactly what it should be and how powerful it should be. Standing on the corners, there was a part where all of the black people were standing on a corner by a light pole. That's the symbolism of how you keep blacks on corners in America, because you don't want them to come up. There was also the prison yard, which had the same exact reference in there. The revolution will be televised comes from a poem from Jill Scott Heron, where he said famously that the revolution will not be televised, saying you can't just sit on the sidelines and think that and watch the revolution go by. You got to get up and give action, which is why Kendrick said it will be televised now, and you picked the right time, but the wrong guy, meaning him. And there's another obvious reference there that I won't touch on. In the crowd, he gave a sign warning. A lot of people felt that was a shot towards Drake, but other people feel like that's actually a sign of him feeling like the country is going the wrong way, and we need to wake up and figure it out before it's too late. Serena Williams a lot of people saw that as only him finding one of Drake's exes to take a shot at Drake. That part was obvious, but in him, they feel like it's the deeper message is he's mad at Drake for using black culture when he's not really a part of black culture, and he doesn't like the way that Drake does things like attack black women. So putting Serena up there was Kendrick's way of showing I'm going to protect black women against the likes of the people who are like Drake. That's another one I feel like a lot of people missed. And in the end, they're not like us. Everybody saw that as the diss song, but what Kendrick's deeper message in that was us as black people, they are not like us. And these are the things that we have to do, which is why he ended with TV Off as the last song, because it kind of symbolized black entertainers in America always having to perform for those in the stands, and they capitalize off of us while also still not giving us the credit we deserve.
So there was a lot there. That's a lot there to unpack.
And I probably didn't catch half of them, to be honest.
And that's probably the tip of the iceberg. And like, as you said, as the days go by, I'm sure more stuff will become like more prevalent.
100%.
And for our job, this is probably the biggest turnoff that can happen during a first date.
Oof, there is one thing that I know is going to happen to me every single time I go on a date, other than getting ghosted. And it's that my date at some point is going to either act like he has never heard about my job, but I can totally tell that he has Googled me, or he is going to bring up something I've said on the show.
When you go out on first dates now, what is the percentage that you assume a person has looked you up or not?
I always assume, because I Google them.
Yeah,
and then
right?
if you find me, it's like a gold mine. Like, I am out there. Like, there is not a single part of me that's not out there. So I go in assuming, and I'm usually assuming correctly because I have yet to go on a date where they haven't brought it up or alluded to it in some way. So I have been trying to fight it, and there was a guy I recently went out with that I really thought I was going to be able to get away with it for, because he's not on social media, or he is, but he's like kind of not really on it. And I could tell just by the way he was talking to me, because he still seemed interested, that he hadn't Googled me yet. And I was like, I am going to use this. I'm going to catch lightning in a bottle. And this is going to be the first time I'm going to get to go out with a guy, and he's going to have no idea about anything I've talked about this week. So I get on Hinge. I match with this guy. It's going really well. I shared it with Kristen. I was like, the banter was bantering. The vibes were there, and I could just tell this guy was equally interested in me as I was to him.
Y'all, this convo was just chef's kiss. Like, it was, you could tell the chemistry and the jokes were hitting, and the sarcasm and the satire was just right. Like, the two of them, it was like, it was just so perfect.
It's exactly the way you want like a first conversation to go with, especially over text. And notoriously, I hate texting. It is my least favorite thing to do. I think sometimes guys rely on it too much to show personalities over the internet they don't have in real life. So then you feel like you're kind of getting personality catfished. It's just not my favorite thing to do. But he was really good at it. So I was like, oh, this is like a good time.
And so were you.
And so was I. I'm not going to lie. I'm really good at this flirting thing. And I'm a big fan of just meeting as soon as possible. Let's just meet and decide if we like each other, because no matter how good you are over text, if the vibes aren't right in person, it's just not right, and you can't fight it.
And his face card was good too.
And his face card was good too.
It was cute.
Yeah, things were lining up really well. So yeah, this is about to go downhill. So anyway, he lives in another city a couple hours away, and he's like, I would really love to drive up to Atlanta and take you out on a date. And I said, my guy, this is not my first rodeo. Do not drive 5 hours to go on a date where we might possibly hate each other. Let's get on FaceTime. Let's just see if the vibes are there. And if we like each other, then we'll go out in real life.
This was the first time you've ever suggested a FaceTime date with the dude you had been talking to on one of your dating apps.
This is my first FaceTime date. So that went down last week.
Great idea.
I was really nervous because he texted me again on Monday, and I love that he had given me some space over the weekend because I communicated that I don't like texting. So then he didn't text me over the weekend. And then on Monday he touched base. He's like, do you want to get together? And I was like, yes, I do want to get together because I think I love you. And, you know, we had some really great banter on Monday. We set up a time on Wednesday, and it was very weird, like getting ready for a date to happen in my apartment, because I'm like, how ready is he going to get? Because he texted me like when he was done from work. He's like, do you want to get on FaceTime now? I'm like, are you going to get ready? So I guess I don't need to get ready. So I did my hair, but I did like a little bit of makeup because it's like 7 p.m. in my apartment. So it'd be very weird if I had like a full beat on.
How long did you spend on the lighting?
The lighting, actually not a lot at all. I was trying to test like my different computer lightings. Like, should I go super bright? Should I be like glowing? Should I be in the dark? Like, how can I make this lighting to my advantage considering I have little to no makeup on?
And background, are you going to different spots around your apartment to see like what background, or are you just going into like green screen and doing some kind of rando background behind you?
Yeah, you're in Thailand.
Hey, well, howdy from Texas or wherever I am. No, I just sat on my couch. I was doing some work. I was doing some editing for my podcast because, again, I like to put myself in an environment where I'm not totally centering this person. So I was like, what would I be doing right now at 7 p.m.? I'd be sitting on my couch. I'd be watching Outlander, and I'd be doing edits for my podcast. So that's exactly what I'm going to do before he calls me.
Y'all supposed to have food or drinks?
Yeah, I didn't know. I was like, maybe we're going to have like a drink date. Are we going to be cooking together? This is my first rodeo. I don't know what's happening. So I sent him a text around 7. I said, hey, I'm finishing up stuff if you want to give me a call. So he sees the text. He pulls up his phone. He calls me, and there he is. And I'm like, hi. okay. And it's just so weird. We're both just like sitting there with like our respective beverages. I've got a coffee. He's got like a kombucha or something. And we're sitting there talking and I'm like, okay, this is going pretty well. And
So
I'm
it
like,
wasn't weird.
It wasn't weird. We were sussing out the vibes. It was a little weird at first because it's like, okay, what do we talk about? And the first thing that comes up, and this is always the first thing that comes up on my dates, is so about that job thing. Because I had kind of given him a nudge to not Google me. I specifically said, please do not Google me before this date. It'll actually really upset me. In like a more fun, playful way. There was a whole conversation, but I basically said, do not Google me. Like, let's meet me and then you can Google me.
You tell me that, and that's the first thing I'm going to do.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely. Because I think you're trying to hide something.
It was kind of a funny, flirty thing because he asked me what I did for work, and I was like, God, he must have already Googled me if he's asking me this question. And I joked, I said I was a foot OnlyFans person, and then he was like, haha, and I was like, I'm not. Just don't Google me, please. So we get on the phone call, and it immediately comes up, and I tell him that blah blah blah, I'm a radio person, and I can see in his eyes he's already done the Google thing, and so I just look at him, I go, so what did you find? And that's when the tone kind of shifted. It was like really good at first, and then all of a sudden I could kind of see him like look up and sort of ponder whether or not he should say something or not. And he said, yeah, I was looking through all the clips. I just clicked on all the ones with you as the screenshot on it. And I was like, do you have any concerns or questions? Can I give you any context for things? And he goes, well, there was this one clip I wanted to ask you about. And I go, which one was that? And I'm thinking it's the London boy story. Like me being a crazy, not ex-girlfriend flying to London to see this man for a second date. And he goes, there was this one clip where I saw you in front of a White House. And I was like, oh, our political smear campaign ads? And
the political attack ads we did
the
this
political
past
attack
election?
ads. That's what he brought up. And I go, okay. And so we go through the rest of the date. I thought it went well. He brought up a second date, and I was like, oh, we'll go on a second date. But then we get off the call, and he doesn't text me. I was like, that's a little weird. So then I was like, let me go to the Bert Show Instagram, and let me see what he saw that he was so concerned by that he needed to bring up. And just as a fun reminder, this is what this man heard.
Abby Murphy might be a lot of things, but a serious candidate for public office is not one of them. Will she even realize that she's been elected?
I like smoking pot a lot.
Even during the few minutes she isn't high. Abby doesn't seem to grasp any reality.
And I know sometimes you got to pretty yourself up more than you got to ugly yourself down or ugly yourself up, whatever it is.
She doesn't take the issues seriously. Remember the time she finally got meetings in the White House to discuss what she called America's biggest concerns? What did she and Kamala talk about?
We were talking about what each other's vaginas look like.
And while she wouldn't reveal the details of her secret meetings with President Biden, she had no problem boasting these lies.
But I have seen his penis.
What?
Many times.
The one positive we can say about Abby Murphy, she's very self-aware.
Deep down, I'm pretty stupid.
This is Abby Murphy.
Penis.
Sponsored by For the Love of God, Don't Vote for Abby Murphy. We're pretty sure even Abby Murphy would approve this message.
Deep down, I'm pretty stupid.
Look how red our face is right now. Yeah, for those of you that don't know what those are, if you're new around here, we take clips from the Bert Show and we put them, they're totally out of context. But right before the election, when all these smear campaigns are going, we do one for each other and we take these clips and totally play them out of context. So this is the clip that this dude heard.
I tried to explain it to him. I was like, because he kept pressing me on it. I was like, why is he asking me about this so much? I was like, yeah, it's just like stuff they take out of context. It's just supposed to be funny. And he was like, oh, okay. And I'm because this guy's in the military, so he's just like very straight laced, and I can just tell that this is not hitting right with him. But yeah, that was pretty sobering. And I was a little concerned because I'm like, we did that back in October. I'm like, you watched videos all the way back to October? So
it was November because it was literally right before the election.
Yeah.
So I'll give him a month. However, I witnessed the conversation. Like, you guys had jokes. Like, he made jokes. This is so obviously a joke about political attack ads. Like, how would you not? And everything that's being said is literally getting taken out of context. How would he not see it that way?
I don't know. I just get the sense that he wasn't about the whole radio thing, because then we get off the call. I send him a text. I'm like, nice meeting you, blah, 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 blah. Just to be nice. Yeah. And to be fair, just to save my pride here a little bit, I was kind of like, I don't think we're compatible right now. But if he had the same sense of humor as he did over text in person, maybe it would work. So I was still open to it. And then, I didn't hear from, he texted me back, and then I didn't hear from him for a day. And then 24 hours later, he sends me a text and he's like, hey, lovely meeting you. I just don't think we're compatible.
Wow.
And I was like, I just feel like, I just get the sense that this dude is way too straight-laced for it all. And I had to save my pride a little bit. I sent him a text back and I was like, I feel the same.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Lucky for him, you didn't make him drive 5 hours to figure it out.
I told him, I was like, wasn't the FaceTime date a great idea? You're welcome.
You should say, hey, you owe me $150 because it would have cost you that much in gas.
Yeah,
So
I
charge it.
saved you money. My Venmo is at Abby Murphy.
The Bert Show.